I have spent a lifetime at the bedside watching what the quiet hours of the night can do to an aging brain, and I want you to hear this before your next breakfast. If you are over 60, an ordinary egg can either steady your circulation or quietly stack the deck for a stroke while you sleep. And the difference is in the pan and on the side. Here is your first lifeline. Plan a gentler plate for morning by choosing a poached or boiled egg, adding leafy greens and a slice of whole grain toast, and skipping the salty meats and heavy cheese. That single choice already turns the pressure down on your vessels and gives your brain a calmer night to come. Eggs themselves are not born guilty. In many people, a single egg fits comfortably inside a balanced pattern and brings useful protein and choline. The harm arrives when time has stiffened your arteries, when salt invites extra fluid into your bloodstream, and when saturated fat thickens the texture of the blood, you ask your heart to move. I have watched this play out in real lives. A plate that felt harmless at 40 becomes a strain at 70 because the aging body handles fat and sodium with less forgiveness. When you cook in animal grease, you raise the saturated fat burden. When you pair breakfast with processed sides, you flood your system with sodium that squeezes your vessels tighter. When you place that heavy meal late in the evening, you slow the cleanup your body needs before rest. Thread these together, and you create a quiet current where a clot can form and drift across fragile brain tissue while you sleep. My promise is not fear, but control. Respect the egg, and it will respect you. Eat it earlier in the day rather than at night, so your body has time to process the load. Favor water and steam over sizzle and smoke, so you are not layering extra fat onto a delicate system. Bring color to the plate with spinach, tomatoes, or peppers, so fiber and antioxidants can do their steady work along your artery walls. If you live with high cholesterol, high blood pressure, or diabetes, your margin is narrower, and every small move matters more. Yet the path is still within reach. You do not need a perfect diet to protect your brain. You need a few steady moves done day after day. You may ask whether this is truly grounded in evidence or just another nutrition headline. The clearest themes from trusted guidance are consistent. Diets lower in saturated fat help keep bad cholesterol in check and lower stroke risk. Processed meats and salty sides raise pressure and erode the lining of your vessels. Moderate portions of nutrient-dense foods, prepared with care, support a calmer circulation and a clearer mind. That is why I open with a step you can take before the sun comes up. Change the way you cook the next egg. Give it gentle heat and plant-based company, leave the salty meats and heavy cheese aside, and give your brain a quieter night. In the next part, I will walk you through the breakfast habits that most often push my patients toward danger and show you the simple trades that bring the risk back down, one peaceful morning at a time. When I close my eyes and picture the mornings of my patients, I can almost hear the crackle of bacon fat and smell the eggs frying in it, a scent that once meant warmth, family, and safety. Yet that same plate, left unchanged for years, can quietly turn into the reason a stroke arrives without warning in the middle of the night. The encouraging part is that the danger is not inevitable. If you poach or boil the egg and let it share the plate with vegetables or whole grain toast, you hold on to the comfort without stacking hidden weight on your arteries, and that single choice can guard your brain through the night ahead. What happens inside the body is simple enough to explain, but heavy in consequence. Bacon grease carries saturated fat that stiffens vessels the way candle wax hardens in the cold. Sodium from the bacon pulls water into the blood and makes pressure rise like a dam straining under flood. At 60 or 70, the arteries are already less elastic. The lining is more fragile, the blood more inclined to thicken and form clots. And once a clot drifts into the brain, the result can be sudden silence in speech, paralysis of a limb, or the loss of memory that no therapy can fully return. Research backed by the American Heart Association and by Harvard has shown again and again that diets high in saturated fat and salt fuel this risk, and the effect is especially strong in older adults whose circulation no longer has the margin of youth. I think of Robert, a 72-year-old retired firefighter who lived by the smell of bacon and eggs every morning. He told me he had eaten that way all his life without harm. But one morning, his wife found him unable to lift his cup, his right arm limp, his words slurred. The stroke had come, and the scans showed arteries narrowed and brittle, their walls, lined with plaque, built silently over years of bacon grease breakfasts. When he looked at me from his hospital bed, his eyes told me the truth. The tradition he thought kept him strong had quietly stolen his independence. This is why I do not tell my patients to give up joy, but to guard it wisely. If you love the taste of bacon, crumble a little over a bed of vegetables instead of bathing your eggs in grease. If you crave richness, let avocado or olive oil provide it. These are not sacrifices, they are shields. The choice between waking clear and waking confused can rest on what you put in the pan at dawn. Tomorrow morning, ask yourself, is my plate building strength or gambling with it? In the next part, I will take you into another familiar dish, the cheese-filled omelet, which looks harmless but hides its own trap for the brain. When most of us picture an omelet bubbling with melted cheese, we think of warmth, comfort, and a quick way to feel nourished. Eggs mean protein, cheese means satisfaction, and the whole plate feels safe. Yet that same dish can act like a slow-burning fuse inside the body, building the conditions for a stroke without you feeling a thing. The good news is that the outcome depends on how you prepare it. If you fill your omelet with spinach, peppers, or mushrooms, and finish with only a light sprinkling of cheese, you can keep the comfort and let your arteries breathe easier through the night. The reason it becomes dangerous with age is not mysterious. Eggs already bring cholesterol, and when you pack in multiple slices of processed cheese, you layer on sodium and saturated fat. Sodium swells the bloodstream with fluid, pushing pressure higher the way water strains the walls of a narrow pipe. Saturated fat makes the blood thicker and stickier, the way syrup drags through a straw. In the younger decades, the body compensates, but after 60 or 70, the arteries stiffen, the lining weakens, and clots take hold more easily. Once a clot blocks a brain artery, oxygen is cut off in moments. Research from trusted places like Mayo Clinic and Harvard has shown that diets high in sodium and saturated fat accelerate plaque buildup and make strokes far more likely in older adults. I remember Linda, a 68-year-old retired teacher, who thought her omelet was a wise and wholesome choice. She walked each evening, she never smoked, and she believed her 3-cheese breakfast at the local diner was fueling her with healthy protein. One morning, she lost vision in one eye and stumbled with sudden dizziness. Tests showed high blood pressure, climbing cholesterol, and narrowing vessels in her neck, the main channels carrying blood to the brain. She had suffered a transient ischemic attack, a warning of a larger stroke waiting ahead. The look on her face when I explained this was unforgettable. What she trusted as healthy had been quietly gambling with her future. That is why I never tell my patients to fear food, but to shape it wisely. A vegetable-filled omelet crowned with a little cheese can still bring joy. But a heavy load of cheese melted day after day turns a comforting dish into a silent threat. You are not choosing between flavor and safety. You are choosing how much of each to allow. Tomorrow morning, ask yourself, is this omelet protecting my independence or putting it at risk? In the next part, I will guide you into another familiar habit, the pairing of eggs with sausage, ham, or bacon, which can tip the balance even faster toward danger. For many of us, the picture of scrambled eggs steaming beside sausage links or a thick slice of ham feels like the very definition of an American breakfast. It is what our parents served on weekends, what diners still present with pride, and what we often believe fuels strength. Yet that same plate can quietly turn into a recipe for disaster. When cholesterol from the eggs meets the heavy salt, fat, and chemical preservatives in processed meats, the body is pushed toward stroke without you even noticing. The good news is that tradition does not need to be abandoned. If you set those eggs beside roasted vegetables or a slice of lean turkey breast instead of sausage or bacon, you can keep the comfort and release the hidden weight pressing against your arteries. The reasons are easy to grasp once you look inside the body. Processed meats are loaded with sodium that pulls water into the bloodstream and raises blood pressure the way a dam strains against rising water. They carry nitrates that injure the inner lining of your vessels, leaving them fragile and ready to tear. Mix those with the cholesterol from eggs and the grease from bacon or sausage, and your blood grows thicker and stickier, the perfect environment for clots. And clots never sit quietly. They drift, and when one wedges itself in a brain artery, oxygen is cut off in moments. Research from the American Heart Association and Harvard has confirmed that diets high in processed meats are tied to more strokes, more heart attacks, and shorter lives, especially in older adults whose vessels are already less forgiving. I will never forget John, a 75-year-old retired postal worker who lived by the same breakfast every day for decades. Eggs, sausage or ham, toast, and coffee. He believed it kept him strong. One morning, his wife found him slumped in his chair, his face sagging on one side, unable to form words. The hospital confirmed a hemorrhagic stroke. Years of salt and fat had weakened his arteries until one finally gave way. When I later sat by his bed, he whispered with broken speech that he thought breakfast was his foundation. The sorrow in his eyes came not only from the stroke, but from the knowledge that the routine he trusted had quietly betrayed him. That is why I tell my patients to keep the ritual, but change the ingredients. Eggs can still greet you in the morning, but let them rest beside vegetables, avocado, or lean poultry instead of sausage and bacon. These are not punishments. They are protections. The difference between waking with steady speech and waking in silence can come down to that single choice. Tomorrow, ask yourself if your plate is building your future or gambling it away. In the next part, I will take you to another seemingly innocent dish, the egg salad or deviled egg rich with mayonnaise, which carries its own quiet threat to the brain. At first sight, an egg salad sandwich or a plate of deviled eggs feels safe, even comforting, the kind of food you carry to a church luncheon or lay out for a summer picnic with family. It looks gentler than fast food, and because it is homemade, it carries a sense of pride. Yet that same dish can carry a quiet threat when eggs are mixed with heavy mayonnaise. The reassuring part is that you do not need to abandon it. If you trade part of the mayo for Greek yogurt, creamy avocado, or a lighter dressing, you can keep the familiar taste while easing the pressure on your arteries and protecting the brain that carries your memories. The reason it turns risky with age is rooted in simple biology. Mayonnaise is thick with fat, cholesterol, and concentrated calories. Combine that with the cholesterol already inside eggs, and you flood the bloodstream with more than an aging system can handle. Blood thickens, vessels grow weaker, and the heart is forced to pump harder against the strain. The risk climbs higher when such a meal is eaten late in the day. Blood pressure normally dips during sleep, and a sudden heavy load of fat can tip the delicate balance, giving clots the perfect chance to form and drift. Research from trusted institutions such as Mayo Clinic and Harvard shows that diets rich in saturated fat and cholesterol strongly increase the chance of stroke and vascular disease in older adults. I think often of Carol, a 70-year-old grandmother who loved preparing egg salad for her grandchildren. She was proud of cooking at home, believing it healthier than sending them out for burgers and fries. One afternoon, dizziness swept over her, and her vision blurred, but she shrugged it off as a problem with her glasses. Scans revealed the truth. Her triglycerides were dangerously high, her arteries narrowed, and she had just suffered a transient ischemic attack, a small stroke that warns of a larger one waiting ahead. The disbelief in her tears told me how painful it was to learn that something she trusted and shared with love could quietly steal her health. That is why I tell my patients that the answer is not to banish the foods they enjoy, but to reshape them. An egg salad blended with yogurt or avocado can taste rich without overwhelming fat. Deviled eggs dressed with herbs and spices instead of heavy mayo can still bring delight to the table. These are not punishments. They are protections. Small shields placed between you and the hospital bed. The difference between sharing laughter at a picnic and losing your independence can rest on this single adjustment. Tomorrow, as you spread that sandwich or lift that fork, ask whether the creamy taste is working for your family moments or stealing them. In the next part, I will show you a habit that seems to promise strength, eating multiple eggs every day, but which may be the most dangerous of all. For many years, I have heard patients say that eating more eggs each morning was their way of staying strong. The belief feels logical, that more protein means more power. Yet the reality is the opposite. When you sit down to 2, 3, or even 4 eggs every single day, you are quietly flooding your system with cholesterol that aging arteries can no longer clear. What looks like a recipe for strength becomes a hidden invitation for stroke. The encouraging truth is that resilience does not come from piling on more eggs. It comes from balance. A single egg joined by vegetables, beans, or whole grains delivers nourishment without overloading the vessels that guard your brain. The biology shows why. Cholesterol from egg yolks builds up inside arteries, shrinking their space the way rust narrows an old water pipe. As the years pass, the blood grows thicker and stickier. Clots form with ease, and when one of those clots drifts to the brain, the result can be sudden silence in speech or the loss of movement that no therapy can fully return. In youth, the body clears some of the excess, but after 60 or 70, the system slows and the burden grows. Research from the American Heart Association and Harvard has made it clear that diets rich in cholesterol are tied to higher rates of stroke and heart disease in seniors. I still see the face of Frank, an 80-year-old retired mechanic, who believed that 4 fried eggs with toast each morning were his personal fountain of youth. He told me with pride that the habit was the reason he was still alive, but a routine scan revealed arteries to his brain nearly closed with plaque, his cholesterol soaring beyond safe levels. The only way forward was surgery to prevent a massive stroke. When he looked at me with tears in his eyes, he said he thought those eggs were his protection. The painful truth was that what he trusted had nearly taken him away from his family. This is why I ask my patients to respect the limits of their age. 1 egg a day is enough for most. If you need more on the plate, let it be vegetables, fruit, or beans, not extra yolks. These are not punishments. They are shields. The line between living independently and waking up in a hospital bed can rest on this simple choice. Tomorrow, as you crack that shell, ask yourself whether adding another egg truly brings more strength, or whether restraint may in fact give you more years of it. In the next part, I will guide you to the safest ways to keep eggs in your diet, how to prepare them, and when to eat them so they serve as allies, not threats. By now, you may be asking yourself whether eggs should have a place on your table at all. The truth is that they are neither angels nor villains. They can serve as medicine or as poison depending on how they are treated. The hopeful part is that you hold that choice in your own hands. When you limit the portion, prepare them gently and pair them with foods that steady your circulation. Eggs can support your brain instead of threatening it. The safest path is moderation. 1 egg in a day or no more than 7 in a week is enough for most. Let them be boiled or poached in water rather than fried in butter or grease. Fill the plate with spinach, peppers, or tomatoes so the fiber and antioxidants help sweep away what the yolk leaves behind. Flavor can come from a drizzle of olive oil or the creaminess of avocado rather than layers of cheese, bacon, or mayo. And timing matters more than many people realize. At night, the body clears fat and cholesterol far more slowly, so a heavy egg dish after dinner can stack the odds against your brain while you sleep. Place that egg in the morning instead, when digestion is stronger and the system can manage the load. I remember a man in his late 60s who came to me after dizzy spells and pressure spikes that frightened him. He had a habit of eating bacon and eggs at night after long shifts. His vessels were tired, his numbers climbing, and he feared a stroke was near. When he changed to a single boiled egg with vegetables in the morning, His blood pressure steadied, his energy rose, and the dizzy spells faded. No drug did that. It was the way he chose to cook and time a simple food that gave him back his confidence. That is why I tell my patients that respect, not fear, is the right way to view eggs. With moderation, gentle cooking, and mindful timing, this humble food can still give you strength and clarity. Every meal is a choice between protecting or gambling with your independence. Tomorrow, as you hold that shell, ask whether you are about to prepare fuel for your future or a quiet weight on your brain. In the next part, I will widen the lens and reveal how all of these habits come together into a final wake-up call about protecting the years you still hope to live fully. When I step back and see these habits together, one truth shines brighter than the rest. Every meal is a turning point. The plate in front of you is never neutral. It is either medicine or poison, depending on how you prepare it and when you eat it. That may sound harsh, but I have sat by too many hospital beds to call it anything else. The hopeful part is that the power remains with you. The fork in your hand can guide you toward clarity or confusion, toward strength or dependence. The body that once shrugged off heavy food now carries every bite with less forgiveness. Arteries lose their stretch, blood pressure reacts more sharply, and the brain cannot tolerate even a brief interruption of flow. The meals that seemed harmless in younger decades can tip the balance in your 60s or 70s. Eggs fried in grease, omelets buried in cheese, sausage at the side, or egg salad drowned in mayo may taste like comfort, but each one is a gamble you may not win. I have seen men and women who never thought breakfast could betray them until the stroke stole their words or their memory. And I have seen others who changed a few habits and found themselves more alive than before. One woman in her early 70s gave up her late-night omelets and replaced them with a morning poached egg and vegetables. Within months, her pressure steadied, her mind felt sharper, and she told me she felt as though 10 years had been returned to her life. That is why I remind every patient that awareness is the strongest medicine you will ever hold. Pills may help, but it is the daily choice of what you set on your plate that writes the story of your future. Each time you sit down, ask quietly, is this food working for me or against me? Respect is the key. You do not need to fear food, but you must treat it with care. When you choose wisely, you protect not only your brain, but also your independence and the memories yet to be made with those you love. In the final part, I will show you how to turn this awareness into lasting inspiration, a way to live fully and authentically in the years still ahead. The deepest lesson I want you to remember is that the smallest decisions are never small at all. Each one piles gently on the next until they become the line between weakness and resilience, between fear and freedom. A single egg prepared with care, a single walk at dusk, a single night of proper rest may not seem powerful on its own, yet together they create a river of strength that carries you safely through the years. The hopeful truth is that it is never too late to begin. I have seen men and women well into their 70s and 80s make a few steady changes and gain back years of clarity and independence. I think of a woman who came to me exhausted and discouraged after decades of heavy late-night meals. She agreed to try something simple, to eat her egg in the morning instead of at night, and to add a few vegetables to her plate. Within weeks, her energy lifted, her pressure steadied, and she began to laugh more freely again. At 75, she told me she wished she had started earlier, but she was grateful that even then, her body responded with such grace. Her story proves that the body does not stop listening. It responds to kindness at any age. That is why I never ask for perfection. I ask for progress. Each choice is a quiet vote for the future you want. Drink water instead of soda once. Boil an egg instead of frying it once. Take a walk instead of collapsing into a nap once. Do it again tomorrow and the day after, and soon those small decisions grow into a fortress around your brain and heart. Your health is not carved in a single day. It is shaped day by day, choice by choice, and every day you hold the chance to begin again. In the final part, I will invite you to lend your voice, because together, our stories form the community that carries us all forward. The path we have walked together leads to a single truth. Every plate is a decision, every decision a step toward strength or toward loss. I have sat by too many bedsides where men and women whispered that they wished someone had told them earlier. That is why I speak to you now, because the story you carry could be the very warning or encouragement another soul needs to hear. Awareness is not meant to be held alone. It grows stronger when it is shared. So I ask you to join me. Share in the comments if there was ever a food you thought was safe that later betrayed your trust. Share if you have already made a small change and felt new energy or peace of mind. If words feel too heavy, simply leave a yes or a no, a 1 or a 0 to show where you stand today. Each answer is not just a mark on a screen. It is a thread woven into the fabric of a community that refuses to let one another fall. And if this message has stirred something in you, pass it on. Send it to a friend, a sibling, or a neighbor. The more voices carry this truth, the fewer mornings will begin in tragedy. Subscribe if you want to keep walking beside me, because there are more hidden habits to uncover and more simple shifts that can protect your mind and preserve your independence. As you lift your next fork, hold this close. Food is never neutral. It will either build you up or wear you down. Ask with every bite, is this working for me or against me? And know that each wise choice protects not only your own future but also strengthens the circle we are building together. In that way, no one stands alone, and together we carry one another forward.